It's quite dark in here, but it's too hot to put the overhead light on. I hope you don't mind. Hi everyone. So welcome to my reading vlog where I'm going to be mainly reading fairyloot books, which are books from the fairyloot book subscription box. Okay, if you haven't watched my introduction to this reading project, I'll leave it linked above and also below. I basically want to figure out this year if fairyloot is worth it for me. That's all it is. So my plan is to read these books and figure out if actually I will continue subscribing to the adult book box. I got rid of my subscription to the young adult box because I don't enjoy young adult fantasy anymore. Only very rarely I do. And it was actually through fairyloot that I realized that my reading has changed. I found some really good young adult fantasy that I still have on my shelf, but majority of young adult fantasy have been not fails, but it hasn't like made it worth spending the $80 or $90 every month on that book box. The adult book box I pay, I think it's around 60 Australian dollars, maybe just a bit more. So we're gonna see. So basically I'm hoping for a hell of a lot of 5 stars and some 4 stars, but if majority of my fairyloot reading is characterized by 3 stars, then obviously we're gonna have to say goodbye. I'll be really sad if that's the case, but I want to figure this out because my employment is quite chaotic and not very stable because I'm a casual, so who knows? Who knows what will happen? So that's why I thought this would be a good idea for me. And also it's fun. I feel like it might be fun to go through this together. I forgot my glasses in the other room, and do you think I can be bothered getting them? Absolutely not. So we're going to talk about the books that I'm thinking of reading for this vlog. To be honest, I don't know. Actually, no, I know 2 that I'm definitely going to read for this vlog, but the other, I don't know. I also don't know if I want to read 3 books for this vlog or 4. We shall see. But the first book that I'm definitely going to read is this one. I literally got it yesterday. This is The City of Stardust by Georgia Summers, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. It's so gosh darn pretty. So this is supposedly adult fantasy, but it's incredibly tiny, and I'm really excited to read it. So this book, what is it about? Okay, let me just read it out. 4 centuries. Everlease have seen their brightest and best disappear, taken as punishment for a crime no one remembers, for a purpose no one understands. Their tormentor is a woman named Penelope, who never ages, never grows sick, go queen, and never forgives a debt. Well, obviously, if you have a debt, that needs to be paid. You know what I mean? Like, why should she forgive a debt? Interesting. 10 years ago, Violet Everleigh's mother left to break the curse and never returned. Now Violet must find her mother or she will be taken in her place. Her hunt leads her into a seductive magical underworld of power-hungry scholars, fickle gods, and monsters bent on revenge. All in under bloody, 400 pages? It's not even 350 pages? Okay. And into the path of Penelope's quiet assistant, Alexander, who she knows cannot be trusted, and yet to whom she finds herself undeniably drawn. Oh, it sounds so cute. Tied to a very literal deadline, Violet will travel to the edge of the world to find her mother and the key to the City of Stardust, where the Everleigh story began. I'm going to read this now. So, for some reason, this is giving me Emily Wilde vibes, but they're not anything alike, but it feels like it. Maybe it's like that sort of whimsy, kind of cozy fantasy. Oh my god, I'm going to start this today. I'm definitely reading that one. Let me just put this one back. And the other fairyloot book that I know I definitely want to read is Faebound by Sarah Al Arifi. This was blurbed by Samantha Shannon, you can see. And it just feels like it's going to be a mean book. Do I know what it's about? No, let's find out together. Okay. Wurrung was born on the battlefield, lived on the battlefield, and one day she knew she'd die on the battlefield. Yes, warrior! As a warrior in the elven army, Wurrung has known nothing but violence her whole life. Her sister, Lettel, is trying to make a living as a diviner, seeking prophecies of a better future. Oh, it's about sisters. When a fatal mistake leads to Wurrung's exile from the elven lands, okay, so they're elves, both sisters are forced into the terrifying wilderness beyond their borders. There they encounter the impossible, the Fae Court. Ooh! What was that noise? Ignore it. The Fae haven't been seen for a millennium. I wonder why. But now Wurrung and Lettel are thrust into their seductive world, torn between their loyalty to each other, their elven homeland, and their hearts. I didn't know this was about sisters. I legitimately did not know that this was about sisters. Okay, so I'm guessing this is Wurrung. Slay. She looks so sexy. She looks really hot. And this obviously has to be Lettel. Oh my god, she's also quite hot. Can you see it properly? I actually did not know this was about sisters. For some reason, I thought it was just going to be like a woman goes into the woods and finds a fairy. Literally. Oh, this has also got a reversible dust jacket. Because so does the city of Stardust. That is so cool. Oh my god, they're gorgeous. So in this world, there's going to be a difference between elves and fae. I'm very excited about that, actually. Look how beautiful this cover is. Absolutely stunning. The blurb is really well done in like enhancing the intrigue, but I don't really quite know what it's about. You know what I mean? Like, cool bananas. I haven't read The Final Strife by this author, but I've only heard really incredible things. So if I enjoy this, I think I will definitely read Final Strife. But these are the two books that are definitely being read in this vlog. These, oh my Lord in heaven. These books are definitely being read in this reading vlog, but I don't know what else to read. So my video introducing this project came out today, this morning. So I said in that if anyone wants me to read a particular book, just to let me know. If no one says anything, that's fine. If someone says something, that's also fine, because I think I've left enough time between me reading these books. I have left enough time. I've left a month, but like, you know what I mean? To read the books. So I think I'm going to aim for minimum 3. This is going to be a year-long project. I don't know how many times I want to do this. My original plan was every 2 to 3 months, but that could change because I might just like decide to do one every month. Like, who knows? Maybe if you want me to do like a detailed, in-depth deep dive on one fairyloot book each month, I could also do that. But I think I'm going to start with the City of Stardust, and then I'm going to read Faebound, and then I'll pick another one. It's just so pretty. Like, this has to be one of the most prettiest fairyloot editions that I've seen, and I'll keep you updated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put music over the top, because I'm doing like the books that I'm currently reading. I'm doing like a reading vlog for, so I may as well show some random stuff. Unless I think about it more later. Good. So I've got suppressor and I've got hot salami. I'll just do a combination of Hi friends. This has taken me so long to just like sit down and update you all about The City of Stardust by Georgia Summers, and I apologize. I don't know why, but I finished The City of Stardust by Georgia Summers. I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I think it was good. I think we're seeing a lot more of this type of fantasy. It's a type of fantasy that I don't know if I would necessarily consider it cozy, but it does have cozy elements to it. And although it's not light fantasy because the stakes are still quite high, this is more of a kind of fantasy that you read on a weekend. It's not an epic fantasy. It's a bit more slow, a bit more gentle. And I think we're seeing a lot more of this type of fantasy come out, which I love because I love any type of fantasy, to be perfectly honest. It's a debut novel, so the fact that a debut author gets, this opportunity is absolutely fantastic. And again, I think this type of book is trending. Like it's a type of book that we see now coming more prevalent. The story itself, I enjoyed. However, don't read this if you want a romance. I think the blurb makes it as though this is going to be like a fantasy romance. It's a fantasy with a side of like something, right? It's not necessarily a romance. It's not a happily ever after. It's very open ending, which I think I enjoyed a lot more because it just made sense in terms of what the characters go through. So we have Violet, and I didn't expect to meet Violet when she was 12 years old. I was like, what? Why is she so young? This is supposed to be an adult novel. But no, it's fine. So we meet her when she's 12 and things are going on with her uncles. Her mother ran away. We have no idea where her mother is, but we know from what she overhears, as well as from the conversations that we are privy to between the uncles, because she has 2 uncles, that their family, the Everliss, just going to say Everliss, the Everliss have like this curse, and it's not really a curse, it's just a debt. So back in the day, one of their ancestors made a deal with this, let's call her person, more like an entity, a being named Penelope. She wasn't named Penelope then, that's what she goes by now. Made a deal with Penelope. At the end of this deal, in exchange for what she gave him, he must then give his soul to her, basically be killed. It's in exchange for his death. He never, ever fulfilled the debt. So because of that, every generation or so, Penelope comes back to this family and takes what she is owed, never letting the Everliss family go, because in her mind, the debt's never really been fully paid, even though she takes one fucking person a generation. You'd think it would be repaid anyway. But I understand where she's coming from. She's got debts to collect. She's a businesswoman, okay? She needs to dot those I's and cross those T's. So what happens is that Violet's mother was supposed to be the person to be sacrificed, essentially. They don't talk about how this person is chosen within a family generation. When do they know? I think she must just come past and be like, hey, that daughter you just had, mine. But she comes when Violet's mother, Marianne, is supposed to be given to her. Penelope's like, where is Marianne? I know, I didn't know that Marianne left a daughter because I've been looking for Marianne, and she has a daughter. I want her daughter because Marianne is not paying up. The uncles were able to negotiate with Penelope to allow Violet to have 10 years. 10 years to live. And then if they don't find Violet's mother, then Violet can be sacrificed. Mind you, we Like, the mother is gone. Like, she is out living her best life. She is in different worlds. Like, she doesn't care. That's what we think, and that's how it kind of maybe ends. I'm not going to talk the fact that the mother was a bit of a strange character. Anyway, she doesn't find out the fact that she's essentially been bargained, but she does understand that the person that has come into her house wants her for something, and she's a bit scared. But she meets Penelope's assistant named Alexander, and Alexander by accident shows her a type of magic that people can do when they are given a type of element. They call it ruverite, but it's also called god metal. If that sounds familiar, then yes, this book I feel like is heavily influenced by his Dark Materials. Anyway, which is why I enjoyed that, because I just read his Dark Materials. So then, oh, that's very close, sorry. So then 10 years go by and Violet finally finds out about everything, and she is understandably upset, but also like, I'm not going to be a victim of my fate. Like, I'm going to try and change as I need to find my mother. Alexander comes back into the picture, but his motivations are not entirely good. He is Penelope's assistant, so he has his own mission. Alexander's character was quite heartbreaking. Penelope like kidnaps children, and you find out why she does that later on. I don't think I'm going to tell you, but she basically kidnapped Alexander, but I'm pretty sure Alexander was in an orphanage. Anyway, regardless, she stole him and she brings him up as her assistant, but she is the definition of like gaslight. She is very abusive to him, and Alexander takes it because, first of all, that's all he's known. And although Penelope isn't necessarily his mother, I think he does look up to her in a way that is kind of motherly. He doesn't want to disappoint her. He wants her to be proud of him. And it's, again, heartbreaking. So a lot of this book, when we're in his perspective, is him trying to figure out his own place in the world. In the worlds, I should say, because this is technically like a portal fantasy. Alexander goes into a fantasy world where Penelope reigns supreme. It's called Fidelis, and it is just a city. They have god metal, and they use that for basically everything. And god metal is element that comes from the stars. So the entire like theological pantheon is surrounding these beings called astrals. Astrals are stars, and that's how it is. So yeah, you guessed it, Penelope is one of these astrals, but we don't find that out until a bit later, and what that means and why the children are kidnapped. Basically, most of the book is Violet trying to find her mother. She is just following breadcrumbs, and it never works. There are a few time skips, which is fine, but I think it honestly did a disservice to the story. I won't lie. I feel like we miss out on so much in the interim of like when we see Violet and when we see her next. Like, you go from 2 years to like 6 weeks, and I just kind of jarring a little bit. I don't know if you heard that. That was my hip that just cracked. Holy moly. But it's kind of jarring. And I feel like there could have been so much more to the story. And like, yes, you want to keep this like slow building. You want to keep it a character study. That's fine. But give me some action. Even like low ball action. Just, can we have something? Anything. I didn't like the way it skipped. I felt like we were missing things. I enjoyed Violet though. I think Violet was a really good character. I think she was very intelligent. She was so courageous and brave, and she knew what she wanted and tried her hardest to do what she needed to do. And she so easily like would sacrifice herself for the people that she loved. I enjoyed Violet's character. I think her reaction to the world of Fidelis and to her mother supposedly abandoning her to this fate is like very understandable, and I just really liked the way that Georgia Summers characterized Violet. I think she was a really good protagonist. But Alexander steals your heart, even though he makes bad decisions. But it's because of his context, like the abuse that he suffers in the hands of Penelope. And then when you see him realize the lies that his world has been constructed on, I don't think that his story and like that realization was given enough focus. I think that this book needed to be slightly longer for us to actually have those themes that Alexander goes through explored, because his character was where we were getting a lot of the emotional development and a lot of the more layers to his character. Violet, it was very straightforward, which you could maybe argue is a bit of a criticism against Violet, but overall I think it was good. Penelope herself, I think Penelope was a good villain. Like, you're going to hear me say good a lot when I'm talking about this book, because it's a good book. It is a good book, but it is not one that I would consider my favorite. It is not one that I think did anything great, nor did it do anything not great. It's a 4-star solid book. I would recommend it. Most people would have a really good time. It's exactly what it says on the tin, right? Anyway, Penelope. Liked her as a villain. Again, feel like she could have been a bit more three-dimensional, which I think could be also said for Violet, which I literally just spoke about. But I was expecting some sort of twist with Penelope. Like, jokes on everyone, Penelope is actually not the villain. It's this. And although, like, you could argue that, is she the villain? Like, she is. But the villain could also be the ancestor who ran away from the debt, right? And I just wish, again, that entire debt thing kind of had a bit more of an explanation, because it's got to do with the Everless family line and the fact that their blood has quite a lot of astral blood in it. Like, their family line mingled with an astral at one point in their life, in the lifetime of this family. And so as a result, their potential for magic, and as well as their actual blood, is quite powerful. And Penelope needs that blood in order to maintain her agelessness and her power and just like her health. So that's why she feeds once every generation, because that's enough for her, kind of. She has some snacks along the way, but like, she can't just stop. Like, I feel like your debt with the ancestor didn't work. Okay, so you go after everyone in the generation of that family. Okay, fine. But why? Like, you ate you eat a few. Can't you just, like, is that the debt repaid? Like, why isn't the debt repaid? Is it because specifically you want the ancestor and you know that he's still alive? Sorry, that's my dog. And so because you know that the ancestor is still alive and where he is, but you can't access that part of the world, that's why you go after every generation of this family. I think that needed to be a bit more explicit. Maybe it was, and I just forgot. That could be possible. But there is another aspect that I don't think was given enough attention, and that is the fact that she, Penelope, the astral, is eating or sucking the lifeblood out of a family line that are technically her descendants. So the man that she made the deal with, Everless, was her husband. Like, eventually they become husband and wife. So does that mean that they had children, which we don't really talk about that much? And she goes back, like, that's Violet's like great grandmother. That wasn't given enough attention. And I don't even know if Violet herself had that realization. I just thought it was really funny. She's like drinking the blood of the Everless family. And that's technically like the blood that she gave them because they their blood comes from the fact that she procreated with a human. Like I just thought it was funny. She like created her own issue. Like she created her problem. She girl bossed too close to the sun. So now she's trying to eat them all. Like I just thought that was a bit funny. And again, not really explored. This was under 400 pages. And that's the problem I think that I've been having with these books is like, it doesn't go there. Like fully commit. This story could have been so rich and luxurious and so wonderful in terms of the world building. Like if we explored more about the history and like the culture of this world for Dayless and the fact that you can access many worlds, we don't really do much with that. Maybe this is going to be a series because it kind of reads like a standalone. I can understand why fairyloot chose this book because again, it really leans in to the current trends in fantasy that a lot more people are wanting, I think, similar to, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I would very much like Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies and the City of Stardust. I feel are quite, not similar, but I would recommend them both. Like if you read one, read the other kind of thing. Even though they're vastly different, it's like the way it's written and the vibes of it. And I feel like some of my issues for Emily Wilde is similar to my issues of City of Stardust. So there's that. But it's that kind of story. That's my update for City of Stardust. But I think it's a pretty good thing, that my first book for this vlog was kind of a win. I think a 4-star and above is technically a win. I'm very happy. I do want to share though a quote. So this is a quote from Alexander and he's talking to Violet, and Violet asks Alex, "Why did Penelope call me a dreamer?" And this is Alexander's response to that. Alexander tilts his head up to the sky. "She says that we were once nothing more than the dreams of stars. Then the stars molded us from clay and gave us shards of themselves so we may create in their honor. And we were happy for a time. But even though we have our feet on the earth, every time we close our eyes, we dream of being stars again." See, quite beautiful. That's just the one quote that I wanted to share. But I have started the other book for this reading vlog. Just preliminary thoughts and feelings. I'm enjoying it. Didn't know it was queer. We have a character, Yiren, who is queer of some sort. She's in a sapphic relationship when we open up the book, when the book begins. Very interesting foundations that are being laid down pertaining to the world. We have elves, humans, and fae, but the humans have been like decimated. No one's seen a human for like thousands of years, as well as the fae. It is believed that the fae destroyed human civilization because they were jealous of the magic they could wield and only left one human alive named Arthur. I don't know if he's still alive or if he actually a human and like lived a mortal life, but the fae have not been seen in centuries. So like humans and fae are considered by the elves to be like fairy tales, which I thought was interesting. Elves are still going strong, which I think is a red flag. I feel like elves have done more to like in destroying different species than they themselves know. That's neither here nor there. There's also been a forever war between two elf tribes, the Crescent and the Waning tribes, because they want a mine. They both want a mine of an element called Fredia or Fredia. It's like a type of stone that is quite powerful magically. Not quite sure about it yet. Like Yiren very briefly says that even a small stone can help like heat and like light the house of a family for their entire lifetime, as well as help grow their plants. So it's some sort of light source and it has a lot of like properties to it. But yeah, so like they're fighting for this mine, both the Waning and Crescent tribes. And the lover of Yiren is actually the chieftain of the Waning tribe, and she's a bit of a red flag for me, not gonna lie. And again, like you don't know any different when you're growing up in that type of situation. But the chieftain has these, like, her hair is full of these gold stones, that Freedia. And whilst they're in bed together, Wurrung kind of just thinks to herself, like, oh, how many people were killed for her hair decorations? And I was like, babe, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. And she was also the one who instituted child soldiers. And you're still with her. But in saying that, Wurrung is, like, we start the book and Wurrung has just been promoted to a colonel. So she believes in this war. She believes in her tribe, in her chieftain. And I'm hoping that we see maybe just an expansion of her understanding pertaining to this war that she's been fighting in. Her sister Lettel, I really like. I think she's my favorite character as of right now. She is a diviner, but she also has, like, very strong values, and she doesn't care about this war, and she makes it clear that what she thinks her tribe is doing and what her chieftain has signed off on is deplorable. I really like her. So I will continue to keep you updated because I'm hoping later this afternoon that I can just read and see what else happens in this world. I understand definitely why this is going to be a trilogy, because it very much feels like a first book in a series. But I'm going to go now. See you soon, friends. So, a wonderful commenter commented, obviously, on my fairyloot, like, intro to the project, so to speak, and they asked if I could read this book for my first vlog, and so I'm finally doing it. And oh my god, I'm obsessed. You can't really, I'm gonna do an update, like, properly in the daylight. It is currently, like, quite late, but it's the, oh, you can't see, it's The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. Tis quite good. It's quite good. I am obsessed. So much happened in the first, like, 30 pages. I'm getting really excited. It's just, it's so good. So, I'm having a lot of fun reading it. I'm really hoping this momentum continues. It would be so sad if it doesn't. But I'm obsessed with it. It's just so good. I really like the main character, Taliesin, but I have to admit, because obviously we are world building, sorry my arm hurts, we are world building, so these first few pages have been very intense in terms of random fantasy world names and trying to understand what the fuck is going on. Like, it can be a bit info dumpy, just a little bit, and some of the sentences can be very clunky, but oh my god, I love it. I'm having so much fun. I've been looking forward to this moment all day, just being in bed and being able to read my book. We have kind of met the love interest. It's definitely enemies to hopefully lovers. He wields shadow powers. Y'all know how I am about fictional men who wield shadow powers. And
And also, quick question, was this like Rilo fanfiction? Because I really feel like the romance lead, his name is Prince Alaric, I feel like he's Kylo Ren coded. And Taliesin is like technically a pilot. I feel like this was fanfiction. I have to look it up, but I'm having so much fun. I will actually properly be coherent tomorrow in my next clip where I talk about what this book is actually about.
Excuse the angle. I wanted to do an update of the Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. Yeah, I'm in my car. Okay, I'll tell you my day. So I drove my mum to like her headquarters for her work, because they have like a big meeting today, and it's in Dandenong, so it's like a fair way from my place. And I was like, no, like I'll come and I'll go to the local library to do some work. So I went to Dandenong Library. I love Dandenong Library. The vibes are so good. However, is there free parking? I had to pay for parking and it was only for an hour. And I saw signs for like a parking area, but it was a fair like little walk and I didn't want to walk. Like I'm carrying my fucking laptop and everything. Like I'm too lazy for that shit. So an hour leaves and an hour leaves. An hour ends, so I decide to go back into my car and just drive to where my mum's office is and just like chill in the car until her meeting ends. Worst case scenario, they have a foyer. I'm just gonna fucking go in the foyer. It's a public foyer space. Like, what are they gonna yell at me for? I'm like, then don't have a fucking seat here. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's been my day. Not as much work as I was hoping to complete, but I'm gonna do some work now anyway, after I film this. So let's talk about the Hurricane Wars. Y'all, I love this. I hope no one can hear me. I love this. I love this. I love it. I love it. Okay, so what is it about? This is gonna be spoilery, so if you don't want to be spoiled, then don't watch this part. I'll try and keep I'm sorry, I can't. I'm too excited about this book. So the book opens with us meeting our main character named Taliesin. Now we find out that Taliesin is a soldier. She's 19. She's a soldier for the Sardovian Orfold, or Sardovia Orfold. So this is the military of the collective countries, sovereignties, I don't know what you want to call them, that have, it's like basically like an alliance of a few different countries and a few different powers against the Night Empire. And the Night Empire is evil, okay? And yes, so we find out that Taliesin is a soldier in this military. She's a badass. I freaking love her. I really do like her. She's gone through a lot. We find out that she grew up in an orphanage in a place called the Great Steppe, and it's called that because it's like a vertical city, so like they've just built on top of each other, so like in order to use the footpath, it's like steps. Anyway, and quite quickly we realize that she has something else. She's a light weaver. That's what they call her. Now, in this world, it is slightly confusing. I'm not gonna lie. I think because, I could be wrong, but this really feels like a Star Wars fanfiction. And so I think everything has been changed to like suit this alternate fantasy world that she's created, which is good. It's still good. But I think because of that, sometimes I'm a bit confused, especially about the magic system. So Taliesin's a light weaver. The Night Empire have, you guessed it, shadow weavers, but they're not called shadow weavers. They're called shadow forgers.
Why the difference? Why, like, a light forger, light weaver, shadow forger, shadow weaver? They should just be the same thing. Anyway, so in this world currently, there's only two different weavers, so to speak. Those that can weave the shadows and those that can weave the light. However, Taliesin is the only person left who can light weave. The people, like the country, the empire that had the light weavers was called Sunstead. They were utterly decimated by the Night Empire, because what's the opposite of shadow? It's not shadow, it's light. So because of that, the emperor of the Night Empire destroyed it all. I'm pretty sure there's something more to it. I think they tried to help the allies and the Night Emperor got angry. I don't understand sometimes the politics of this world yet. Maybe that's on purpose though, because we're not supposed to know everything. Anyway, so you have like those people who can weave, but there's also different dimensions, and they're not talking about like alternate universes. It's just like different dimensions of magic, but they call it ether. It's not ether, is it? I don't know how to pronounce that word. It's spelled A-E-T-H-E-R, ether. And people who can manipulate different, like the ethers, which is shadow forgers and light weavers, like it's called then ethermancy. So there's different dimensions. There's like time dimension, void dimension, something about the earth, I think, and there's different dimensions, but there's no weavers for those other dimensions. There's only those two. They think historically that there used to be, but maybe because of the Night Empire, they've just destroyed everyone, or maybe they never really existed. We're not too sure yet. Maybe they're in hiding, blah, blah, blah. So Taliesin is this bad bitch, and it really opens up quite punchy. Like, you go straight into war. Well, obviously they're in the middle of a 10-year war. So the Night Empire for 10 years has been trying to take control. Now, according to the Night Empire, according to the Emperor, this is what he told his son, which we'll get to in a second. He said that the reason why he wants revenge on all of everyone that's against... If I'm like doing this, it's because I'm sweating, okay? It's quite muggy. It's because his father, the emperor's father, was constructing these new weapons called storm ships. I think it was Sunstead, the Empire Sunstead, where all the light weavers were like, no, we don't want that. You can't create that. And supposedly supposedly like started the war against the Night Empire to stop the father creating these storm ships. It feels a bit suspicious, to be perfectly honest. I think there's more to it. I think it's always been about magic and always been about power, but we shall soon find out. Anyway, we go straight back into war because the war is still happening. It's been happening for 10 years. Taliesin is a pilot. They call their fighter jets, the Sardovian military calls their fighter jets wasps, and the Night Empire calls their fighter jets wolves. It's funny, but like there's a lot of names for things. It can kind of feel a bit Anyway, Taliesin, her jet basically gets like shot down, so she wakes up however long afterwards and realizes that she needs to like go back to her regiment or whatever. So she starts walking. Then she comes across a shadow forger soldier, and they're called legionnaires because they're like a specific subset of the Night Empire's military. It's like a task force. She comes across this legionnaire and she kills him, and it was a really cool scene. Like, I really like her. I really like Taliesin. She hasn't yet annoyed me. Not that much. Right? I feel like she could have been a bit older, but that's always my excuse, isn't it? But as she was battling this dude, she kills him. Then behind her, there's another legionnaire, and so she turns to him and they start battling it out. Fun fact, this person that she's battling with is the Prince Heir himself, Alaric. Okay? Now, first of all, can I just say something? If you're going to be a prince and the heir to an entire empire, why would you go into battle with like badges and a way for the enemy to identify you as the heir? Because that's how she knew him, because he had like a specific badge that identified him as the prince. And I just think that's really illogical. That's really stupid of him. But he's like, holy shit, who is this light weaver? I thought they don't exist anymore. So they fight it out. She eventually wins the fight because she just headbutts him and runs, and like stabs him in the shoulder and runs. It was funny. And during this fight, it's really funny because they kept on like fighting against each other, like, you know, they're enemies, but it's like, oh, look at her eyes, look at his lips, and it's just so cute. And they're like scenes where they're at odds with each other, but they're just like, oh, look at how gold her eyes are, like look at his pouty lips. It's so fucking hilarious, and I am eating it up. I'm eating it up. If you don't enjoy that, then stay away from this, but I'm eating it up. Taliesin goes back to her general, which they call the Amarante. The Amarante Vila, she used to be a shadow forger. Well, not shadow forger, but she used to be in the military of the Night Empire, and tells her what happened. So now their plans for Taliesin have kind of sped up because they were banking on using Taliesin in like the final aspect of the battle, because no one was expecting a light weaver, and she's very powerful because of course she is. So what they do instead is they're like, we need to train you better. Like, how are we going to do that? And then just so happens one of the generals, like captains, he just came from like a mission trip, a trip to a neighboring, so to speak, empire called the Nanavare Dominion. Just came from there to try and seek help. They said no, but when he was there, he kind of snuck in and he saw this thing. So it's called the light sever. Now I still don't understand what these are, because the Night Empire also has them, like the shadow severs or the night severs, and they're just like these breaks in the ether where these like huge like plumes of power just like escape. I don't know if they can be created. I feel like they can be created by shadow forgers or light weavers, but if they can't be created and they're just like a naturally occurring thing, but they definitely can be destroyed. So this captain's like, there was a light sever. If we can get Taliesin to go to that light sever, she can amplify her magic, like if she like communes with it. I don't know really, I don't quite understand. I'm gonna read out how they describe the light sever. She can commune with it, hopefully enhance her powers, and maybe it'll just give her like, I don't know, some innate ability to do whatever she needs to do. I have absolutely no idea. So Taliesin then goes on a covert operation to the Nanavare Dominion to find this light sever. Unbeknownst to her, there's a traitor in the midst, right? This traitor writes a letter, gives it to a pigeon to take to Prince Alaric. Alaric's like, gotta go, gotta see a girl about a light sever. He follows her. Somehow he's 2 days behind her. He gets there first. So he is also a good driver. I really like him. The scene where they both meet at this light sever, because it's a destroyed like shrine, she sees it and she's like, oh my god. And then behind her, you just have Prince Alaric go, there you are. I'm sorry? I'm sorry? Alaric, stop it. Oh, I love him. I love him. I love him. Okay? So they battle it out. But they don't know that they're so loud and so destructive at this bloody shrine that the local like military that patrol the shrine hears them, comes running, and sees Alaric like on top of Taliesin. They're like, what? They get arrested. But when the captain of this military patrol sees Taliesin, he's like, And I was like, oh my God, what's going on? What is happening? And I knew something. I'm like, is she the princess? Is she something? What's going on? Turns out she's a long lost princess and heir of this empire. And there's also dragons. So fucking hilarious because they're both obsessed with each other, but they think because like it's hatred, you know, it's definitely hatred, it's nothing else. And like things happen that I'm not expecting, and I'm really enjoying it. I've stopped at the point where the Queen of Navarre, who is the grandmother of Taliesin, has proposed marriage between Alaric and Taliesin because Alaric is about to like wage war on Navarre. And I think it's interesting because Navarre have been historically not very compassionate and have not helped the Sardovian military or like Sardovia, like the alliance themselves against the Night Empire. But now that the Night Empire is knocking on their door about to invade, and now suddenly like Taliesin has to worry about it. And like, I'm a petty fucking bitch. I would have been like, Grandma, you can go get fucked. You can go get fucked. I am not helping you. I am not marrying this man. Throw me in a fucking cell or kill me, because you refuse to help my people because I grew up there. You refuse to even look for me, mind you. Well, I don't know if they refused to look for her. They most likely did. But like, I would have been petty. I'm a bitch like that. I'm like, no, Gma, you can do it yourself. Like, you're a gorgeous, beautiful queen. Go and marry him. Why do I have to care now about this empire about to be invaded when you never did anything to help us? No, that's what I would have done. But Taliesin is too nice and also incredibly kind, and she like cares about a lot of people. So she's better than me in a variety of ways. And so she's, yeah, that's what she's doing. But Alaric has no idea that it's Taliesin. So I'm really excited to see that. I might film my reaction to when he like walks into the room and realizes that it's Taliesin that he's marrying. Because like when he was told by his dad that he was gonna, because even though technically now Alaric is the emperor, his father is regent, and his father is a cunt. Like, his father is a manipulative little bitch. And I don't know if this is going to be a story where Alaric moves away from his father and slightly redeems himself for the utter mayhem that he is, because there's been like little bits and pieces here and there that you're like, oh, okay, he's still human on the inside. Like, he does have empathy and compassion, but then his father gets to him. So I just want to know, like, is there going to be some sort of redemption arc? Like, is that where we're going with this? I'm not too sure. So when his father said to him, like, no, you're going to marry this woman, you're going to woo her in order to get more power, the first thing he thought about was Taliesin. Mind you, they haven't really had like a proper conversation. They've just been at odds with each other, and they shared like a cell for maybe like half an hour. I just think that is so cute. It is so freaking cute. But you know what I want more of? The dragons. The dragons, I want more of them. I want to know if they talk. I want to know what their deal is. And I want to know it now. When the minute that they started talking about this myth that the Navarre have dragons, I was like, please, Jesus Lord in heaven, please, can we have dragons? Because then my day will be fully made. I'm loving this book. This book is so fun. For some reason, even though the writing, the characters are vastly different, for some reason, reading this reminds me of my reading experience of The Priory of the Orange Tree. But I think this is more likened to like romance fantasy. It's definitely better written than Fourth Wing, but that type of vibe is like that fun, super pacey writing. This is definitely Kylo Ren coded. This is definitely Star Wars fanfiction. Has to be. There's a description of Alaric and he's literally Adam Driver. So Not that I care, because I think Adam Driver is a tall glass of fine wine. Like, he is so hot. I think I have a trope now that I just realized. I really love books that used to be Rilo fanfiction. I don't know what that says about me. But yeah, so having the best time of my life reading this book, to be perfectly honest. And I want to thank, I'll put the comment up because I think I don't remember the username, I'm so sorry. But this lovely person asked me to read The Hurricane Wars for my first fairyloot vlog. Thank you! Seriously, thank you. Like, the best time. I was giggling, I was gasping for air yesterday. You should have seen me. I'm just finding it really fun. Like, this is the type of romance fantasy I want to read. It just goes in places that you don't really expect, and there's an attempt at world building. Like, you can tell that Thea Guanzon like really tried with the world building, and I think she's doing good for her debut. I just think it can be a bit clunky and a little bit info dumpy and kind of confusing. Actually, let me read out what the description of the lightsaber. Listen to what a lightsaber is. It was a lightsaber. Such a one has not existed on the continent. Does that sound correct? Such a one has not existed on the continent since Gaheris invaded Sunstead. Gaheris is Alaric's father and destroyed all instances of the Lightweave here. Talison's eyes widened. A lightsaber, a tear that the ether had ripped into the material world, where the Lightweave existed without having to be summoned. So it can be summoned. Oh yes, when they weave themselves. A nexus point that she could tap into to amplify and refine her magic. How? In the same way that the Night Empire's legion grew in strength and skill because of the numerous shadow severs that dotted Kasath, which is like the Night Empire's land. Hope and excitement lanced through her. So like, it's a nexus point, it's supposed to amplify, but I don't know necessarily how. Maybe just like tap into it. But yeah, having a lot of fun. I'm gonna do some work now. I'm quite hot, so I might just like go inside and pretend that I work there. I'm about to read Alaric meeting his like future bride, not knowing that it's Taliesin. So like, let's read this. I don't have my stand with me, sorry, so it's just gonna be like this. He hasn't yet realized. None of Vereen women are the most beautiful in all the world, Gaharis had said, Alaric's father. But beautiful couldn't even begin to describe her. She wore a dress of rich oceanic blue, the bodice gold-flecked and skin-tight, hanging from her bare left shoulder in an artful slash, while her right shoulder was capped by an eagle-wing pauldron made entirely of gold. He's describing her fashion. And there was something familiar about their tawny depths. He was too flustered by his physical reaction to immediately decipher what it was. But when he finally did, the breath caught in his throat. She reminded him of Taliesin. Oh, for fuck's sake, Alaric, is he that dumb? It was a cruel joke that he would now have to wed someone so similar to the girl who plagued his thoughts. Oh my god, obsessed. He realized it was Taliesin because his brain was starting to catch up, starting to realize that underneath the opulent silk and the lavish jewels, underneath the cosmetics that hid her freckles and sharpened her cheekbones and softened the strong line of her jaw. Underneath all of that, she was. And then Talison's like, amicable relationship? Not fucking likely. I want them to live happily ever after. No update. I got sick. It could be sunstroke, or it could be something that we're trying to figure out. If you know, I've been like unwell. I get like every month I get sick. The first time it happened I thought it was food poisoning, but anyway, it's a whole thing, and it could be that, or it could be legitimately that I got heat stroke. Heat stroke is no joke. It is no joke, especially here in Australia. Or like, I feel like if you live anywhere that you get like that dry heat, but also like, no, honestly, no, let me rephrase that, just heat, because the humidity that fucking sucks the life out of you. So still loving the hurricane wars, not gonna lie, it is absolutely fabulous. It's given 5 stars, to be honest. It's giving 5 stars. I'm so obsessed with it. Haven't really been reading much, but the few pages that I have read today, I really like it. So yeah, I was hoping to finish the hurricane wars today, but not gonna happen. Stay cool, keep hydrated, and I'll speak to you whenever I can speak to you. What's wrong? It's raining. I'm just gonna quickly talk to people. He always stares at me when I talk to myself, which is a lot, to be honest. Anyway, hey everyone, I am feeling better. Not 100%, but feeling better. Anyway, I wanted to do my final update for the hurricane wars. Five stars. I don't know how to explain my love for this book. It was so good. It was so fun. The reading experience of it reminded me of just like when I used to really fall in love with romance fantasy. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't felt like that since Iron Flame. It was just a really good time. And I think I liked it because it felt like fan fiction. Like, it was just so slow burn. There was so much tension. Like, Taliesin, the reason why she's always like hot and cold with Alaric is because Alaric is literally responsible, well, not responsible himself, but kind of, him and his father, for like the decimation of her country. Like, it's just, I really loved it. And I thought for a debut it was quite good, enough to get 5 stars. I can't wait for the sequel to come out. I can't foresee like how this is going to end, because I want it to be a happy ending. But how can Taliesin reconcile Alaric? Like, it's just like Alaric is now her husband and she has feelings for him, but she tries a lot to like not really, my dog is scratching himself, to not really like sit with those feelings. She doesn't want to feel anything for him because he is representative. He is part of a regime that cost so much. Her friends have been killed, her people have been killed. Like, so I just don't know. I just don't know how it's going to, I don't know. The only way that I can see that happening is if Alaric like breaks away from his father. His father is a maniac and he is abusive. But anyway, let me just talk about what I want to talk about. Okay. I know. Such a slow burn, but the tension is spectacular. The tension is spectacular. Alaric has definitely fallen first. Taliesin is trying her hardest to try and figure out what to feel, how to feel, not to feel guilty of how she feels. It's very slow building. Again, very excited to see where it goes. I still think there are parts of the plot that don't necessarily make sense. For instance, the Night Empire after winning the war with Sardovia. Oh, by the way, let me just give you a bit of an update. Sardovia is not a collection of allied countries. I'm a fucking idiot. Sardovia is an empire, a kingdom. The Night Empire is its own kingdom as well. So, like, it's a kingdom. I just got confused because of the way that it was being described. After winning the war, basically, okay, after winning the war, all of Sardovia has fallen to the Night Empire. Like 3 or 4 months later, they decide to go to the Nenavare Empire, which is where Taliesin is because she's the heir to this kingdom now, or this a queendom. Would you call it a queendom? That's where she is, but Alaric doesn't know that Taliesin's the heir to this throne. Anyway, so the entire point is that they go there to wage war because according to the Night Empire, this is Alaric's father. Like, you can't have just like this random powerful like queendom just like living its life, like it. So like, you know, we have to invade. It's like, no, you don't. Like, you don't have to invade. And the entire time, so that's why Taliesin is then arranged to be married to Alaric, and why Alaric is persuaded by his father to be married is so that there is no war, so that peace can finally happen. But it's like, well, if you didn't want to invade in the first place, it wouldn't, like, this wouldn't be necessary and there would be peace. Like, what? I'm so confused. There's no point. Because Alaric would say in his, like, internal monologue, like, oh, you know, so we can have peace. It's like, but babe, do you not understand what you were trying to do? His father, well, he's not an emperor anymore because Alaric is the emperor, but he's the regent. Regent Geharis, whatever his name is, Geharis, so that, you know, the Nenavare, it's too powerful. They have technology that we don't have. Like, we need to somehow take that for ourselves. Just like, chill, babe. Alaric needs to just kill his father. Honestly, it's so ridiculous. I don't know how many books are going to be in the series. I can see this being a duology. I can't necessarily see this as being a trilogy. I think then it would just be like really dragging it out. It would really be dragging the story out. But we shall see. I think the next book in this comes out in October of this year. Very excited. Honestly, if you just want a good time, if you just want to be like, oh, as a result of just like these two people getting feelings for each other, but like not knowing how to handle said feelings, but also like there's a bit of, you know, there's morality shit happening, read it. It's really good. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun reading it. I really liked Taliesin. I really liked Alaric. I think it's going to be an interesting, fun, can I say lighthearted, even though technically it's not really lighthearted. I'm going to say it's lighthearted. Would not consider this cozy fantasy, but it's a good time. It's a good, if you enjoy romance fantasy, like if you are a romantasy person, I think you should read this. It's just a lot of fun. But I do still stand by the fact that this is Star Wars fan fiction. Don't know if that's true or not. So if you don't want Kylo Ren coded main romance lead, then don't read this. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, that's the end of this video. I hope you had a fun time. I had a fun time. Let's think about, let's reflect upon these. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out where. Let's reflect on this video. Okay, so I read 3 books. I read City of Stardust by Georgia Summers. I gave that book 4 stars. I really liked it. Really liked it. I read Faebound by Sarah Al Arufi, which I also gave 4 stars, which I enjoyed. Then I read The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon, which I gave 5 stars. I think this reading vlog was a success. So 3 books. I read 3 books. And I gave like 4 and 5 star ratings. I'm feeling very good about myself. Feeling like this was a really great way to start off this reading project. My favourite was definitely The Hurricane Wars, obviously, and then I would say City of Stardust. Faebound was good, but not great. I'm already excited to figure out what I want to read for the next fairyloot reading vlog. I'm thinking of doing like a themed one where I read fairyloot books in series. So I can finally get to like Elizabeth Lim, to Olivia Blake, to Chloe Gong. We shall see. Thank you so much for watching. As always, take care and stay safe, friends, and happy reading. Bye.